What I have right here is basically everything that Franz Kafka ever wrote. I know there's some letters that were also published, but these are all his stories. And I want to tell you a little bit about Kafka because it's not just his writings that are inspiring. It's also his life. His life is the life of a true artist. His life is the life of an artist that never got the recognition that he really deserved in his life. And I want to tell you why this is inspiring and why this is something that you should almost look up to. This is something that you should almost try to emphasize in your life as well, because Kafka was someone that lived in the late, 19th century, died in the early 20th century. He was only 41 when he passed away. He never really got any recognition for his work while he was alive. And, one of his more popular stories, The Metamorphosis, was actually published when he was alive, but it really didn't get any sort of fanfare. It really didn't get any sort of critical accolades. There really wasn't anything. Like, nobody knew who he was when he died. And after he died, basically, the guy that he gave his will to, the guy that was executing his estate, he said, burn everything that I have left. Burn all the stories, burn every letter that I had. Like, I don't want these things to see the light of day. And it was his friend Max Brod, the guy that basically kept all this stuff. He published everything. And his basic premise was that Kafka would not have given me these stories because he knew I would have published them. He knew that even if he wasn't happy with the quality of them, even if he wasn't happy with the stories and how they were unfinished and all these things, like, I know deep down he wanted me to publish these things. And the great thing about this is he eventually got the recognition he deserves, because Kafka truly has a style that is so unique to him. Like, basically I would describe it as horrific circumstances that keep getting worse, and you can't put it down because you don't know where it's going to go next, and it always just ends up in a way that, like, you're like, oh, this is just weird. Like, I'm glad I kept reading because it was even more horrific than I could even imagine. And some of his more famous stories is, like I said, The Metamorphosis. The Castle is seen as his most mature work. I don't really like it that much, but there's also America, and then we have the masterpiece, which is The Trial. The masterpiece is basically about a man who is accused of a crime. We don't know if he's guilty. We don't know if he's not guilty, but he doesn't believe that he's done anything wrong. And it's really just so much about the power players that are involved in the court system, the power players that influence each level of the justice system, and how they each pull it in a certain direction, and it kind of makes it a bureaucracy. It kind of makes it unfair, and it's really haunting because even Franz Kafka, with his genius level of writing, could not prophesize people getting mandatory urine tests and all this, like, horrific stuff that we do nowadays in the legal system. And it's really funny, but it's also, like, horrific. And then we have Kafka's complete stories. This has The Metamorphosis in it as well, but it also has a bunch of other short stories. Some of the more notable ones are The Judgment, In the Penal Colony, The Hunger Artist as well, or I think it's A Hunger Artist. But this leads me into, why is Kafka's life significant? Why should we read Kafka? Why should we look to him as an example of the pure artist, of the pure creative? And this really goes into the dying moments of his life. The last story that Kafka wrote was A Hunger Artist, and it's about a man who basically, early on in his career, he starves himself in front of people. He's in a cage. He's in the middle of the town square, and everyone comes and crowds around, and they're fantasized. They're like, wow, what is this? What is going on? And they're captivated by this performance. And later and later on into this guy's career, he basically loses fame, recognition. He's not as popular, and he eventually is put into a carnival, and his cage is kind of pushed off to the side. No one watches him perform. No one watches him perform his art, but he still does it for the sake of the art. He still does it for the sake of his passion, of the thing that gives him purpose, the thing that gives him value. And in the end, he's basically forgotten about, but he had broken his fast record by so many days that he can't even count. And in his dying moments, he was like, I did something. I have some sort of accomplishment. And this is the exact moment Kafka's sitting in his deathbed, dying of tuberculosis, as his throat closes so that he can no longer eat, and he basically dies of starvation. It's very ironic that this is how Kafka went out, but you can truly see in this story his realization that he is not going to get the recognition he deserves. He's not going to get the cathartic release of of everyone eventually recognizing this genius that never was. And it's a truly beautiful sentiment, because in this moment it almost comes off as if Kafka has understood what he's written. He's understood the art that he's created, and even if no one has seen it, he's done it for himself. He's done it for the sake of being an artist. And what does this mean for us? What does this mean? Like, what can we take away from this? And what we can take away from this is doing things not for the fulfillment of others. Doing things for the fulfillment of yourself. Doing things so that you can make yourself happy. Because in the end, what does it matter if you please someone else if you sacrifice yourself to do it? I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I am not. And this is the absolute extension of this idea. This is the idea that, like, no matter what, you always need to pursue your passions. You always need to pursue your dreams. You always need to find time for that creative expression. You always need to find time for that passion that you have, that maybe it doesn't pay the bills. Maybe you never get recognized for it. Maybe you're not even good at it. But you still got to do it for the sake of yourself. You still got to do it for the sake of fulfilling that aspect of your soul. A few stories that I think you should read by Kafka. Like I said, A Hunger Artist is a great one. In the Penal Colony is a horrific one. The Judgment is a really, really touching one if you have an interesting relationship with your father, if you feel like your father never actually recognized you as talented as you were, or never really gave you the appreciation you want. Like, maybe that's one that you should read when you're not in your feels, but it is a good story. I would really recommend The Trial. If you liked 1984, I think this is a much better version of it. It's allegorical, and it really transcends to today, because 1984, some of the predictions they've made, like, obviously the book is titled 1984 and we're way past that, and we don't really see the level of you know, authoritarianism. Like, we don't see that level of stuff, so it kind of like takes away from the predictions, because Orwell said that this was going to happen at this date. But yeah, no, this is obviously my favorite work by Kafka. It's something that if you want to read a horrific tale, this is the number one thing to read. And the best thing about Kafka is you can see the lack of success, you can see the lack of recognition that he gets in his writings, because the stories don't end well. The stories don't end with a happy ending. It's almost symbolic of his life. It's not like a Tolkien novel where everything wraps up with a nice, clean bow at the end. And not to say that that can't be a great work, but it's really nice when it can be done to the level of Kafka. This is Kafka's probably most funny work. It's kind of ironic. It's basically this guy is going around America, and the second something starts to go right for him, stuff starts to go wrong, and it just progressively gets crazier and crazier. This one is kind of a combination of his other two novels. It's something that I think you should read last, because you'll see the elements of both. I didn't particularly like it because I think it did the comedy, the ironic aspect of America not as good as America, and it didn't do the bureaucracy element of The Trial as well either. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I missed it, but it just didn't speak to me personally. And this is perhaps the thing you should start with first. I think it's, how many pages? It's 120 pages in this version, but I'm guessing there's a lot of introduction. It's probably around 70, 80 pages. This is something you could definitely get online for free. This is perhaps his most well-known story, and it's the story of a man named Gregor, and he is a traveling salesman. He basically provides for his family, and one day he wakes up as a human beetle hybrid, and it shows how his family dynamic changes once he becomes deathly ill, once he is subjected to live the life of a human beetle hybrid who can no longer provide, who can no longer give back to his family. And there's a very interesting symbolic angle to this, where it's like, is this a tale about when you get deathly ill and you can no longer provide for your family, that you're the same person but they don't appreciate you as much, they don't love you as much? Like, are we loved for who we are? Are we loved for what we do for other people? Or you could just take it as a horrific story. And that's the best part about Kafka. It's both symbolic, yet it's also a horrific, like, H.P. Lovecraftian story. Like, it's the best of both worlds. That's why I love him so much. It's such a unique style. I'm actually trying to write something in a Kafka style right now. It should be done in a few days. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Ask me about that if you're interested in that. I will send you a link to that. But yeah, love you guys so much. Hopefully this was a interesting video. This is a lot different from the things I normally do. I don't even know if I'll be able to ever replicate it again, because Kafka is Kafka. You can't really can't really define him. You can't really put him in a category. He really transcends any category, and that's the great aspect of him. Like, if somebody can put you in a box, that means you're not yourself. If someone can define you, then that means that you didn't lay it all on the line. You left some part of yourself unfulfilled, unexpressed, and when it's all said and done, hopefully I can say the same thing about myself, or other people will say the same thing about me. Yeah, love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Feel free to look up any of these works. I think a lot of the works are online for free because Kafka died so long ago. Depending on when it was published, it may or may not be public domain. I don't know the laws of your country, but if you're in America, you can get a lot of this stuff online for free. I'll try to link a lot of the books. I probably won't do it. I'm lazy. I'll try to link like the major ones down below. But yeah, if you want to join my Discord, if you want to know I'm streaming, go ahead and click that link. On top of that, if you want my own writings, if you want my own perspective on things, go ahead, join my school community. That's a fun place that I'm slowly building out. I'm slowly like creating a library of stuff that you guys can read that I've written, because I really do like writing. I really do think it's extremely fun, and if I could share that with people, it'd be a really cool thing. So peace out. Love you guys. Thank you guys for all the support recently. Let me know if you want me to make something similar to this, because this is way different. So peace out.